curiosity, I can show you the way.
They travel with apes.
Declare martial law. We underestimate this human.
The hell are they? The story is spreading through the villages. They all want to see this human who defies the ape.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars and welcome to another first time watch review. Today I'm taking a look at the 2001 remake Planet of the Apes. The film is directed by Tim Burton and it stars Mark Wahlberg, Helena Bonham Carter, Tim Roth, Michael Clarke Duncan, Estelle Warren and David Warner. Right. Okay, so this is the remake of the classic Planet of the Apes film. Follows a very similar story of the first one. Mark Wahlberg plays Captain Leo Davidson, who ends up kind of getting sucked down to Earth that is populated by apes. It doesn't make sense. These apes are ruling the planet. He can't understand what's going on. He kind of bands the humans together in order to fight back against the apes as he looks for ways to make his way home. Right, what are my thoughts on Planet of the Apes? Well, after recently watching Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I'm really enjoying, obviously, the Caesar trilogy of the new Planet of the Apes films. I thought, well, there's one Planet of the Apes films I've never seen, and it's this one. So I thought I would take the plunge. Now, at the time when this came out, I didn't have any real interest in this. For a number of reasons, really. I suppose at that time in my life, I really didn't have any interest in the franchise. I think that's fair to say. And it was not doing particularly well in regards to reviews, the film when it came out. So I just didn't have any interest in seeing it, and I've never seen it since. So what are my thoughts on this film? Now I have seen it. Well, I can certainly understand why this film didn't do particularly well. It's not actually very good. Now, I suppose let's get the positives out of the way first. I think it's a big budget affair. We've got Tim Burton, who's a real visionary, who I actually think, when you put Tim Burton in charge of the right film, Beetlejuice, Sleepy Hollow, Batman even, because that needed that gothic vibe. And there's a multitude of others. He is one of the best ever. When you kind of give him a big studio film like this, where you watch it and it doesn't feel like a Tim Burton film, it's not. It doesn't feel like it's a Tim Burton film. This, and that's not a good thing. So I actually think they kind of miscast the director here for this film. But it's like a big budget affair. Obviously, lots of money thrown at this. The effects are of a very good standard, certainly for the time. And it feels like a popcorn blockbuster movie, I suppose. But it also feels soulless, heartless. At times, it also feels cheap. And what I mean by that is the early stages of the film. They probably were filmed on set, and it looks like they were filmed on set. The sets just don't look very good. They're very dark and very dingy and quite claustrophobic, and this whole culture of these apes, I just don't feel as though they got that across very well across the screen at all. You find yourself early on in the film just kind of fathoming out the effects and marveling at most of the effects for the apes. Some of them look a bit dodgy, but the most part, like the Tim Roths and the Michael Clarke Duncans and others, they look remarkable, really. And then you've got Mark Wahlberg. Now, I don't have an issue with Mark Wahlberg. I actually think, again, a bit like what my comment with Tim Burton, with the right project, Mark Wahlberg is a good actor, and he's very decent to watch. But what kind of projects are we talking about here? I think it's like the Ted movies and the stuff he's done with Will Ferrell, and the occasional other movies that he's done that are decent action films with a little bit of humour thrown in there, sort of thing. At this stage in his career, he does not make a convincing lead for me at all, and he seems without personality and emotionless in this film, and it's just, in my opinion, a poor performance by Mark Wahlberg. It doesn't carry this film at all. In my opinion, it needed a bigger star. I mean, when Charlton Heston made Planet of the Apes, I mean, he was about as big as it gets in them days. And then it follows a very, very predictable storyline. Mark Wahlberg gets kidnapped, he's all confused, doesn't know what's going on. He escapes with the other humans, they bands the human together, and then you get a big battle at the end. But it doesn't get any more nuanced than that, really. The film, when it attempts to be funny, the film just falls flat on its face, in my opinion. And it's more like, oh, look at these apes, aren't they funny, sort of thing. And, you see apes, they try and put them in humorous scenarios and situations and stuff, and it just doesn't work. The film either needs to have been taken very, very seriously, in a sense, and done with a straight face, without the tongue-in-cheek stuff going on in it. It doesn't work, in my opinion. I did like the cameo from Charlton Heston here, although my understanding is as well, from checking out stuff, that Tim Roth was very, very unhappy to actually share the screen with Charlton Heston, because at the time he was quite a controversial figure, Charlton Heston, with his is it NSA or whatever it is, the Rifle Association in America, and his thoughts on gun control were quite controversial. And Tim Roth really didn't want to share the screen with him, but he kind of was talked around by the director. So you do get a decent cameo from Charlton Heston. You get a couple of nods here and there to the original. And then you get that ending that I suppose everyone, I don't know if everyone complained about the ending here, but I mean, there was no way they were going to top the original's ending. It's one of the greatest endings of all time in a movie, I think, the original Planet of the Apes. It's just so impactful and so out of the blue, really. This one, it's nowhere near as impactful, you could argue, and I think anybody that argues that it isn't. But what I do commend the film for is trying to remake the original, but putting a different spin on things. It doesn't feel like you can't. I mean, you could argue that with remakes, you can't win no matter what you do. If you try and stick to the original, you get people call you out for basically, doing a copycat of the original. If you try and be different from the original, then people say it doesn't work. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like the original. This one kind of sits somewhere in the middle. It does feel like there are aspects of the original in it, but there's also quite a few differences to kind of make it kind of be its own thing. But the problem is the stuff that it does different, the different stuff that it brings to the table, in my opinion, just doesn't compare to the original in any area, not just one, in any area. I mean, you could argue even in the effects. I mean, the effects of the original still stand up today. And I mean, you could imagine they would have blown everybody away when that film came out in the 60s. And the effects here, while impressive, when you actually compare the effects to the most modern Planet of the Apes films, with the CGI in the ape school with all the actors and stuff, there is no comparison. It kind of sits awkwardly somewhere in the middle. So yeah, I could see why this is a bit of an oddity in the franchise. I can see why probably fans of the Planet of the Apes don't like this, and to be fair, not many other people do either. And while I'm curious to have watched this, and I'm glad I've watched it, I suppose, to say that I've seen it, it's probably not a film I'll be rushing to watch again, if I'm being particularly honest. But Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this film. Maybe there's some of you watching this that are secretly quite a big fan of this. I would be interested to hear your thoughts. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.